Thank you, Kelsey. Hi, everybody. Welcome. I hope I can be some lunchtime entertainment for you all today. Thanks for joining us. This is exciting. This is one of our, there we go. This is one of our bigger groups that we've had live. So this is exciting to have you all with us. So so as Kelsey said, this is one of a couple of upcoming sessions that I'm going to be doing over the next couple of months on this concept of cleaning up your digital life, decluttering, organizing, because even myself, who is in the technology industry and have, what I think to be a million bits of random technology information going on in my head, I get cluttered. Everybody gets cluttered. Stuff is everywhere. So I like to use these sessions as hopefully like a nice cleanse, as a way for you guys to understand some ways that you can use and leverage different tools that are available to all of us for free. Actually, all of these tools that we're going to talk about over the next couple of sessions. Specifically in the Google world, that's where I like to live. And so if you aren't an experienced Google user, that's fine. I think by the time you get done with this, you might be like, I think I need to check into all of these Google tools, because there are a few that I'm going to show you today, because what we're looking at today is this kind of bigger picture of tasks and organizing, digital world stuff. So we do have our own separate sessions on Drive and on Gmail that are upcoming. And this one, we're going to kind of do a roundabout of different topics. So I'm excited for you all to be here with me. And as Kelsey said, please drop your questions into the chat when you have them. So my name is Ben Songrath, and I'm from Illinois. So I'm down south of you guys, just a little ways in Dixon, Illinois. And I'm a lead regional EdTech coordinator for an organization called the Learning Technology Center of Illinois. And I'm a former high school history teacher. So my job is to train people and teachers on how to use technology in their everyday lives. And so my contact information is there, so feel free to reach out if you want. And I believe I shared the slides with Kelsey, so she'll be able to follow up with you all if you want to see these slides afterwards. That would be fine. So, okay, so here's your first tip, and I'm going to be jumping between the slides and actually demonstrating these things for you. So there are a lot of stuff. There's a lot of things that I want to do. I hope you pick out 2, 3, or 4 of them that you really, really like. And also, if you do have stuff that, Kelsey just put in there, but if you have questions about something, please put it in the chat. If you want me to redo something again, please put it in the chat. I'm happy to repeat it, because that's part of this, right? Is learning how to do it. I want you guys to take something away. Here's your first tip. If you're looking to take some notes, I have a couple of note-taking things that I want to show you. But one of the things that's cool about Google right off the bat, let me move everybody over just a little bit, is that if you open up a new tab in Google Chrome, so I'm going to live a lot in Google Chrome here with you guys today. And if you open up this tab, if you type in, so Google Drive has all of the tools that you might ever want. So if I go to Google Drive, and if you're new to the Google Drive world, you do have Google Docs, which is like a word processor, Google Sheets, which is a spreadsheet like Excel, Slides, it's like PowerPoint, Forms is a Google Forms collector, and then lots of other things we can do in here. One of the things that's kind of cool, here's your little tip. If you're doing and you're working in a Google space all the time, if you just type in the name of the tool that you want and then .new. So for example, I want a new Google Doc to take some notes in today. You can simply type in your Omnibox or your browser bar here, docs.new, and hit enter, and you get a brand new Google Doc that pops up right away. So that's tip number 1. I think there's going to be about 50 of those types of tips today, but that's one that I like to use in a pinch, where I'm in a meeting and somebody says, hey, let's take some notes, or can somebody take some notes? Or I'm like, oh, I need to be taking some notes right now. Just go into the browser, type docs.new, boom, and it opens up, right, a new document for you. And then this is also kind of in the vein of Google Drive, which is what we're going to talk about in a couple of weeks. But one of the things that I do want to point out, organizing your digital life, decluttering your digital life. If you do exist in this world, like I do, where you have Google Docs and you're using Google Drive a lot, one of the things that happens is when we open up a new document like this, we might forget to name it. So I can call this CCHE notes. But then when I do that, you'll see it saving up here in the top corner. The issue then is, where does it go? Well, it just goes into my Google Drive, and it just lives there. So it's not organized in any capacity. So you see, I've got a lot of folders, but then I also have all of these documents here that are not organized at all. Like I said, sometimes practicing what I preach can be a problem. But if we want to organize this, my work life is a lot more organized than my personal life. I think that probably is the case for most of us, right? If I want to organize this, there's this little button right here that looks like a folder. And that's an important one to know because I can click on that, move it, and then I can put it into a folder without having to go into Google Drive and find it. So if you are taking a notes document, and it just, you do that docs.new and you want to move it into the right folder, you can click that little folder icon right there, move it in. And then now if I go into my Google Drive and I find that Google folder, there it is. My notes are in there. So now they're organized in that folder. So just a couple of quick things. So if you were wanting to look to take some notes today, that's a cool way to do it. And then you can also see there, we have the ability to do things like sheet.new, form.new, site.new, drawing.new, slide.new, all of the Google tools. All you have to do is type the name and then .new, and you get a brand new one that opens up. So pretty cool stuff as a fun tip there off the bat. So like I said, we're looking at an organizational way of keeping your digital life today. So when we talk about Google Drive, or spend a whole hour on that, what I like to focus this session on is like my digital world in general. So my life revolves around digital stuff, whether that's keeping track of events, keeping lists, keeping tasks, using just the internet in general. All of this stuff revolves around my digital world. And one of the things I want to point out is this cell phone here with Google and all of the Google tools. If you have the app, whether you have an Android phone or an iPhone, it doesn't matter. They're all interconnected, which I think is incredibly important. So I'm going to be jumping. I'll actually be sharing my phone screen occasionally here. So hopefully that will mirror correctly today. And we'll be able to see like how this helps and how you can do things on your phone and have them update on your web browser. So you're always connected, which is kind of one of the cool things. One of those tools that I like to use is Google Keep. Google Keep, it might be new for some of you. You might not have ever heard of Google Keep before, and that's fine. And what that is that it is keep.google.com. So you can go to that. I'm going to put that in the chat. And Google Keep is Google's note-taking tool. Okay, so Google Keep allows you to take notes and essentially creates a bunch of Post-its or sticky notes, and it organizes them in one place for you. So it's not a formal note taker in like that, a formal document, say like a Google Doc or something like that. This is going to be, as you see when we jump into it, a way for you to essentially take the Post-it notes that you have littered across your desk, no doubt, and then organize them into one place. The thing that I like about Keep is that you can also share those notes with other people. So you can use your phone to share a Keep note with somebody else, and you can edit it back and forth. And it can be a very informal kind of note-taking thing back and forth. So it's a really, really good, powerful tool, and you can do a lot of different things. So like as the list says there, we can keep things like checklists. That's my favorite use of this. Documenting things, planning, sharing, and integrating. So all sorts of really fun stuff here. And I want to jump into Google Keep just to give you a little bit of an idea of how it looks and what you can do with it. So this is Google Keep. As I said, you can find it by going to keep.google.com, or if you click your waffle up in the top corner of your screen, you can look and scroll down and you should see Google Keep in there as well. So if you're signed into your Google account, you can get to it that way as well. And what this is it's very much just a note-taking tool. So here's my sticky note here in the middle of the screen. You'll see it's very plain right now. It's white. That's pretty boring, but we can also change the colors of those so it actually looks like a sticky note. And then we can give it titles and we can take notes with it. And then as what those things look like, as you can see, here are some of the notes that I use. So this was actually from a meeting the other day. We were using another platform, not called Zoom. It was called Blue Jeans. Might have been the worst platform I've ever used for virtual conferencing. So I had to take a lot of notes to figure out how to use it because it was very confusing and not very good. So I was able to take some notes in here and just keep them going in the background. And it was really helpful because this wasn't anything I needed to have formal. I didn't need to put it into anything, share it with anybody. It was nice just to kind of keep it in that Post-it note area. And then just another example here, my son had he went to the audiologist. He had some hearing loss going on. Turns out we had to put tubes in his ears. My wife couldn't go to the appointment, so I had to take notes. And I am terrible at, she's like, "Oh, what'd the audiologist say?" I'm like, "You can't hear. I don't know." And so what I did was I took notes in the Google Keep, but then down here you'll notice I can add a collaborator, and I added my wife to it, and then she was able to in real time actually watch me type these notes in when she could. So that was really helpful because they update as you type in. You can see it there, and it's in this note form. So again, it's not a big Google Doc. It looks really clean on your phones, but you can also edit them on your computer. This is another one here. Just again, I'm kind of showing you hopefully useful examples. I had early in the spring when I was opening my pool, I noticed that my PVC pipes cracked. So that was super cool. So I had to replumb all of that, right? Well, I had to go to Menards and I had to buy all the things again. And I am really bad at remembering these things. And I could have wrote it down, but instead what Keep allows me to do is actually take a picture and then put in a list of all of the items that I need to purchase for that. So that was helpful because then I could, when I'm at the store, I could kind of recreate what I actually needed in real time at the store. So that was a really nice way of doing it. So Google Keep is pretty awesome for this. I'll show you this though. This is how my wife and I use this more than anything. This is the #1 use case for Google Keep for me. And my hopeful selling point to all of you to be able to use it. Not that I'm selling it. I get no money from this at all for like selling you Google Keep, but my Google should cut me a check. I feel like they've sent me 1 water bottle in 10 years of talking about their stuff. But what Google Keep allows for us to do is share our grocery list back and forth. And I tell you what, folks, this is like, I'm not kidding when I say this is like a game changer in our marital relationship. Because if I need something, I open up my phone and I put it on the list and it goes to her list as well. And it happens in real time. So I'll give you an example here. On my phone, I'm going to uncheck hash browns because I know we have those now. And then in just less than a couple of seconds here, that hash browns, there it goes. See it disappear? Gone. And so what we're able to do is instead of having a written down list that she makes and doesn't share with me because, she wrote it down while I was gone or something like that, we have this Keep list going, and we've had it going now, I think for almost our entire relationship that we've been living together. So like 8.5 years now, this same grocery list has been in existence. And if we need something, we say to each other, just put it on the list. And then in real time, if we go grocery shopping together, I can go to like the right side of the Walmart or the Aldi, and she can go to the other side. And if I swing by and pick something up, I open up my phone, I check it off the list, and it disappears off her list. So she won't pick up the same thing. And if she's at the store, I add something to the list. And if she's still there, she'll see it and she'll be able to pick it up, which is really nice. Now, here's something for all of you ladies in the room. If I could just talk about us men for a second. We have small brains. We're kind of dumb when it comes to all this stuff. So try not to confuse us very much, like my wife did to me. She had the grocery list here that we'd been using for years. And I put on the grocery list body wash. And then she got home from the grocery and she didn't have any body wash. And I said, "Well, how come you didn't give me any body wash?" She said, "Well, it wasn't on the list." I said, "It was on the list. See, it's on the list." And she goes, "Oh, well, that's now the Aldi list. I created a Walmart separate list. And so I was at Walmart, so I didn't see that." And I said, "Well, did you share the Walmart list with me?" And she's like, "Oh, no, I didn't." I'm like, "Okay, well, it's not my fault then. Like, you need to share those things with us." And so it was kind of funny. Like, we were like, you can't confuse me like that. We do need an Aldi list and we need a Walmart list. So now that's what we have. You can see we have our Walmart list and we have our grocery list. So very helpful, extremely important. The other thing that we use it for is vacation packing. So Kelsey and I were just talking about, our upcoming trips that we have to Disney World here in the next coming calendar year, really. But this is really nice because what we'll do is we'll create this list. And then as we're packing the car or the suitcases, one of us has our phone open and is saying shorts, swimsuits, flip-flops, and we're just, boom, checking them all off as we go. And we've got it. So really helpful. So Google Keep is pretty fantastic for documenting your pictures, and then other things too. So you can see like my golf trip, I have it on there. What are we going to do on our vacation? Just a really nice thing to kind of do. And then you can also pin your notes up to the top. So like we'll always see our list. So that's Google Keep in a nutshell. Does anybody have any Google Keep questions about this?
The only question we have in the chat right now is about, is there a way to save doc.new as a bookmark that always brings up a blank document?
I don't think so, because it acts more as a shortcut than it does an actual URL. Because once I type in like docs.new, see there's no bookmark icon here. And then as soon as I hit enter, it comes up with a new URL for that specific Google Doc. So it just kind of generates that new Google Doc URL versus being an actual link itself. I mean, there's a moment in time there where it like opens up and it has, so maybe if we hit it quick, nope, see, it went right to that untitled document. So no way to bookmark that. You'd have to type it in every time. That's a good question though. That would be cool if it did that, but fortunately it doesn't look like it does.
Maybe so. Google's listening. Maybe that'll be the future.
They're always listening. Yeah, they are always listening. Can you link photos from Google Photos? As far as like as bookmarks and things like that, or sharing links to Google Photos? You know, that was a question that just got dropped in there. I see that.
Maybe possibly into the Keep.
Oh, into the Keep for sure. Yeah, you could absolutely do that if you wanted to. Yeah, I can go in and show you that. Or you can also bookmark photos because they are. So like here's one of my messed up 3D print. My 3D printer was not great. So this is a very basic picture here, but if I wanted to save that photo, you could grab the link here, copy that and put it into a Keep note. And then, yeah, you could put that in there. But also if you're just looking for like vacation photos, like a camera roll, like what we would probably do is just use Google Photos for that specific purpose. More so than using Keep or anything for that. But if you wanted more information about Google Photos, we could absolutely do way more information on Google Photos too.
And we do also have a whole hour long on just Google Photos. So that's an option for you.
Say we did that. I think we did that, right? We have a video on that. Yeah.
But I will tell you that I do that for my family, that we do vacations and we do that as albums, and you're able to share those with friends and family. And so that way there's a lot of interaction. And
it does, you know, allow for as cleaning up your digital life. Like I think it's definitely relevant to the topic here. And you can see I've got a lot of these albums, like our Florida trip from last year. So Google Photos, if you're interested, see I saved it with or shared it with all of the people that were on that vacation with us, and they all added and contributed. So if you are interested in cleaning up your decluttering your photos life, you should look for that webinar that's recorded that CCHE has. So, yep. All right. So I'm going to move on from Keep. If you have other Keep questions, please drop them in the chat. I'm happy to answer those. But one of the things that I want to show you guys now is actually a thing that lives in a lot of different places. It lives in Drive. It lives in Gmail. It lives in pretty much any Google tool that you have. You see it lives over here in Slides as well. I guess it doesn't live in Keep, but and it's your task list. So when you open up a Google tool, if you're in, say, in your Gmail, so I'll go to Gmail here. And then now we go to tasks. I have a task list over here that I can use, which is this little circle with a check mark. So I'll kind of zoom in over here and you can see that. And if you don't see this bar over here when you're in your Gmail or in your Google Drive, look down in the bottom right corner of your screen and you'll see a thing that says a little arrow that says show side panel. And that's going to bring that side panel out. And again, it exists in all of these tools. This is also where you can get to your Google Keep a little quicker too. So all the Keep notes, if you want to take a Keep note real quick, you can do that. Now, the reason I bring up your task list is because we are all Always constantly trying to have a list of things to do. I use this more for work than I do in my personal life. I'll just put that straightforward out there. I use it a lot for work. Personal life, I don't really use it because I use keep lists, because most of my personal tasks are things that my wife is telling me to do. So it helps me to have that shared with her. So that way she can just put the stuff that she wants me to do on a list for her. This is more of something I use for work. I'm in my personal account, so there's not going to be much on here. But if you click on that little circle with the check mark in it, you'll see that I have a checklist here that I can add to. And I can add a task like create webinar slideshow for Google Drive. And now it becomes a list on here. And then this is the thing that I really like about this. As I'm done with these tasks, I check the little thing here and I get the satisfaction of the lines going through and they disappear from my list, which is something we all like the satisfaction of. So there we go. I actually did all of these things. I just never checked them off. And then if I want to see where those all do, woohoo, I got all my tasks. They're actually going to show up down here once this little bar disappears. There we are. Here's my completed tasks. And there's all the things that I needed to do. And so I can go on here and I can say, you know what, actually, I need to redo that. I can uncheck it and it goes back up into my task list. So this is something that I find to be super helpful in keeping me organized digitally, right? Because I'm able to add different things to it during my day. If I'm in an email and I read this email, this is from a resort, it's just spam, but like, hey, maybe I need to do something based off this email. I can go over here to task. I can create a task. I can say call Grand Geneva for reservation. And then down here, you can actually put in more details and you can also put in your date and time that you want to do that. So I can say, do this on Monday and hit OK. Actually, that did it all day. Let's put an actual time in there. Say Monday at 8:30 and hit OK. And now Monday at 8:30, when I look at my calendar, which is one of the other things we're going to look at in our time together this morning. Monday at 8:30, I have on my list or on my calendar, call Grand Geneva for a resort reservation. So this is a really helpful tool that you can sit there and check off different things. Does it prompt by priority is the question. No, that's actually up to you. So it will, like, you can organize it based off of priority. So like you can drag and drop your different things, but it doesn't actually, it only puts it like you're in charge of the priority of that, I guess is the best way to put it. It doesn't do that for you. So I can say like, oh, this one has a deadline here of Monday, but then this one has a deadline of tomorrow. Like I could still move and rearrange these. So it takes into account that you're the one that's setting the priority, not the computer itself. So still pretty cool and something that is pretty neat. You can also star them, which means that you just have a separate task list here of important things that you can do, and you can have multiple task lists. So you can create a new list. So you can have like your task, team task, work task, personal task, whatever. The one big difference here. So you might be saying like, what's the difference between say like a checklist that I create in Google Keep with a task list and then this one over here? And the biggest difference is that these cannot be shared. So a task list that's over here that appears in your side panel cannot be shared, where a task list that you maybe, or a checklist that you make in Google Keep, it can be shared. I think the benefit of this is that these tasks can become individual events where Google Keep lists cannot. So this is where I think this is helpful because we can attach dates to it. It keeps you on your toes, that type of thing. You also have the ability to download the Google Task app, and you can have your task list on your phone as well. So Keep is on your phone, Tasks is on your phone, all sorts of fun things. I will reiterate this in the Gmail webinar that we're going to be doing together too, but I think it's important to talk about right now. So I have this Grand Geneva email, and if I want to keep this as a task, actually, we're going to go to the one from that Kelsey and I were in. So here's this right here. So I have this email back and forth between myself and Kelsey, and it's like, oh yeah, I need to do something for her. I can add this to my task list. And what it does is it gives me the subject already as my task, and then an immediate link to that email as well. So even if I go back to my inbox and I'm like, oh yeah, I have to respond to Kelsey, I can just click this and it takes me right back to that email exchange, which is really helpful, because how many times do you open up an email and then think, oh yeah, I have to respond to that, and then you forget. But if you put it on your task list, it just gives you a quick link right back over to it. So super helpful. Just another one of those. We'll reiterate that in the Gmail session that I'm going to do, but I think that's a really cool thing to kind of make sure we also hit when we're talking about the task list right now.
Ben, I got 2 questions for you. One,
yes.
Maybe people are not bad like me, but I actually put sometimes passwords I use really regularly into the task list. Do you have a recommendation to maybe not do that, or maybe that is perfectly acceptable, but I do use that as a tool to keep things in an easy place?
So that's a cybersecurity question that is certainly got a response that I could give. Do you want the Ben is acting as a tech professional or Ben is a practical human being response? Because I think there are two different
the practical one
approaches to that. Because
security
Ben as a Ben as an IT specialist / nervous wreck about when it comes to cybersecurity should probably say like, no, don't do that. Use something like a password manager like LastPass, or actually Chrome has a password manager in it now too, that is very secure. Yeah, there it is right there. Google Password Manager. Now you guys are going to see all my passwords, but you can add passwords here to those different things. So you can actually put the site in, your username and your password. I would say this is the better way to do that, is Google Password Manager. Now, practicality wise, I mean, it's definitely easier to have it all right here. Like, I'll be honest. Like,
anybody that's trying to hack me, I only have one password in there. It's not that extra secure. They can record my videos if they want.
I think the other thing too, that I would say, the one place that if you're going to do that and we're not going to use like a password protected program to get to all our passwords, the thing that I might suggest is actually, and I have started to do this because my son watched me type in my iCloud password one time so he could download an app, and he memorized it and then proceeded to continue to download apps. I couldn't believe it. It even had the dots that came up after it. He just saw it and he memorized it. I had it the same password for like 9 years. Again, not what professional Ben would say to ever do, but reality Ben. I've had to change my stupid iCloud password 7 times in the last 2 or 3 weeks because of this. And so I put it in, I think, which is a little bit safer. I put it on my notes app in my phone, just because that's not synced like that. They would have to get into my iCloud account on iCloud in there, and I can actually tell it don't sync with that. So I kind of keep them like stagnant on my phone, because also to get in my phone, you have to have my face to get into my phone. So it's a little more secure in that, versus like if I just left my computer open, anybody could click on my task list and get it. So that might be another easier alternative too. So
another question I had in here was about Boomerang. Any feelings about the Boomerang app that you can use in email to create tasks and do some of those things too?
So I've seen it and I don't have a strong opinion on it though. So I have not really used it. So I can't speak to it outside of, using these native tools. But I have had it come up, and it's probably been several years though, since I experimented with it. So I don't really have an opinion on it, to go one way or the other on that. Other task list questions. I guess I didn't show this, but you can also add subtasks. So like call on RFSHS shirts and then add a subtask underneath of that to like add the design in. So you can kind of create this gigantic list of things here. So task lists are pretty cool. I enjoy them a lot. Everybody loves a good list, right? Okay, big one here, calendar. So I have gotten almost everybody in my life to switch over to Google Calendar from the native Apple Calendar on their phones, except my mom. She's the last holdover. And so we're trying, but we're a slow moving train wreck with that one. But we're going to get there eventually. But Google Calendar, something that if you do use Google in your workplace, this is something that's available that you're using constantly. There are a few tips to help us stay organized that I always like to show people. I think it's important Like so keep is really important for certain aspects of my life. Tasks is really important for certain aspects of my life. Google Calendar is essential to my life. Like it's essential to keep me organized. It's essential to keeping me on task, on target. I had to put a Star Wars, thing in there. Because it's really, really important to make sure that I know where I'm going on a daily basis, right? Because we're all very busy. So there's a few things in here that I want to show to help you declutter. In some cases, this might clutter, but we want to make sure we're aware of it. But the big one here that I always like to lead off with is being able to share your calendar with people. This is one, again, I'm not a marital counselor by any means, but like sharing my calendar with my wife has been just an absolute, like, just amazing for us both, because we know where we're at. We both have the understanding of, if it's not on the calendar, it's not an event that actually exists. So if I say to her, I'm playing golf on Saturday, and she says, no, you're not, it's not on the calendar, I have no rebuttal to that because it wasn't on the calendar and she put something else on the calendar that I have to go do. So it's a given, right? Like, that's okay. We've got that agreement. We understand that. My friends that I text and say, hey, can you guys hang out this weekend? And he's like, I got to talk to, Bree to see if we got anything going on. I'm like, how do you not have the calendar? Like, you got to do it. You got to do it. Just got to do it. So here's one way that we want to share those. So we're in Google Calendar here. I'm actually going to uncheck my work calendar here. You go into your settings. Okay. So you're going to go into your Google Calendar. You're going to go into your your cog up here, the settings cog, and your settings icon. And then on the left-hand side, you'll see settings for my calendars. Okay. So you might have multiple here, but I've got one here as my personal calendar. And then if you scroll down just a bit, you're going to see share with specific people or groups. And when you do that, you can give them different levels of sharing permissions. So I shared it with my wife. Yes, my wife has my last name. Does she update her Google account in the last 8 years that we've been married to that last name? She has not, but whatever. I'm not bitter about it or anything. But I have given her permission to make changes and manage sharing. So I have given her all of the capabilities, literally letting her run my life, because that's what this ring means, right? So she can do whatever she wants to my calendar, add things to it, delete things if she wanted to, but I have that access to her calendar as well. And so we can add stuff to each other's calendar, and we can always see each other's calendar. I also shared my personal calendar with my work account. Just because that way, if I have my work account open, I'm able to look at my personal stuff and I'm not getting them intertwined. That's going to be our first tip when we get to Chrome, is to not cross streams like Ghostbusters and, create some super plasma thing, because that's what happens when you intertwine work and life. Not good. Okay. And so we want to keep those two worlds separate. And so I shared my personal calendar with my work calendar, so that way I can add things to each other depending on what Chrome profile I'm in that day. So sharing it, again, your settings, scroll down just a little bit, settings for personal calendar, calendar settings, and then share with specific people or groups. You can type in that person, your significant other, or your son, your daughter. I am trying to get my dad to share his calendar with me, just because, he's always doing something and it's helpful because they watch our kids from time to time, but we're getting there. So sharing is, I think, really, really important. And then once you do share, if you don't want to see all of their stuff all the time, this is another way to declutter, because what I did was actually just clutter up more of your digital life. I didn't declutter at all, and I apologize for that, because I gave you more clutter. So how do you declutter that? Well, if I look at my work calendar here, I got a lot going on, and that's all the stuff that's in purple. If I don't want to see that, you can go over here to the calendars area and uncheck it, and all of that stuff goes away. And if you want to see it, you just click on it and it comes back. So we're able to toggle on and off those other calendars, so that way it doesn't clutter up your view. And I think that's a really important, piece of information there, because if you do share your significant other's work calendar, you get that and you're like, man, they're doing a lot of stuff. I don't need to see all that. Just turn it off, turn it back on. If you have it on your phone, one thing I actually suggest to a lot of people is I don't use the native calendar app on my iPhone anymore. I use the Google Calendar app. I think it's a little bit better. Can you guys see that okay? Kelsey, you want to unmute?
Yep.
Everything goes black when I do that. You're good? Okay, so you can see here, if I go into Google Calendar, which is up in the top left corner of the screen there, everything's all there. It looks pretty much identical to your screen that you were looking at, my screen you were looking at before. But if I want to toggle on and off, I tap the 3 lines. And then now I have right here all of those same calendars, and I can toggle off my work calendar. And now it's not there. I can toggle it back on. And now it's back. So you can use these different calendar settings on your phone as well. Now, iCalendar does a lot of this. You can sync your Google Calendar to your Apple Calendar. I get it. I used it for several years. I think I abandoned it probably about 5 or 6 years ago, though, and went to the Google Calendar app, and I've never looked back. It's a very powerful little tool, and I like it just because it looks very similar to what I use on the web all the time.
Hey, Ben, we're getting the question about somebody's email that has a different administrator potentially. If administrator has changed your settings at all, can you still share? And did you freeze?
No, like admin on my domain, who they can and can't share. It is something that they can open up for you. Maybe if like the tech guy is in the office and you bring him some donuts or something and then ask, like that always is a beneficial thing to do. But yeah, if it says administration or your domain has limited this capabilities or something like that, it's a good question though. All right. So just another couple of quick Google Calendar things, because I do want to make sure we spend a lot of time in Chrome, because that's where we spend most of our day-to-day working world. And if you're not, you're going to hopefully after this. When you do create an event, there are a few things in here that I like to be able to show people. So like I have, an alumni board meeting here, but actually I have a wedding on Saturday and I have a rehearsal dinner tomorrow night. Okay. So when I go to the rehearsal here, I can edit the event. And I get into the main event here and I have my time. I have all of this stuff here. But one of the things that I want to make sure you guys are aware of, there are a couple different locations here that are super helpful. One including add a location. And so what this is a Google Maps search that is tied to the calendar event. So I know it's at Triple P Barbecue. And so I can put it in and it drops the address in. And then down here, I have a description that I can also add. And so I could do something like, this is more for work than maybe like the rehearsal dinner, but I can say in here, like the rehearsal is at the New Life Church with dinner to follow. And then I'll go over here and add a guest, and I'll add Rose, my wife. And now I'll hit save, send that. She's going to be very confused when she gets that email because she's like, yeah, I already know that we're going to that tomorrow. But now, why did I put that location in? I'm going to share my phone screen with you guys again, because this is, I think, one of the things that I use that location for a lot. When I open it up now in Google Calendar and I see that event, I can just tap that event. And then I have that Triple P Barbecue in there, tap that, and it opens up directly into Google Maps and gives me those directions. So what this does for me, and I use this constantly because I'm always traveling for work, and I put the addresses in, it eliminates the copying and pasting of like copy the address from a Google search and put it into Google Maps, or searching, really quickly. You're in the car and you're like, oh, I don't know where we're going, like searching it in there. All that's taken away. Like you just put it in when you break the calendar event. It's a Google image, or it's a Google Maps search anyways here. So you can do that. If you click on it here, you can actually bring it up in a pop-up window over here, and it'll show you in calendar where you're going, how long it's going to take you. And so that's a really helpful tip. And then if I flip this for work, this is where you can put notes in to tell people what the meeting's about. So that way they have a clue before they enter the meeting what the meeting is about. So again, cleaning up your digital life, being able to make sure you're doing things hopefully effectively. Okay, so I see the question there about reminder. So that's a really good question, because reminders don't exist anymore. And the reason reminders don't exist anymore is because tasks exist now. So the reminders area was actually removed when, and it was kind of a bummer because that was directly tied to Google Keep. That was removed after tasks had been around for quite some time, and they took reminders away, and then now it's tasks over here. So they just kind of took that one out and put tasks in. So you're not crazy that it disappeared. It just got replaced with tasks.
There was also a request just to the last step.
Oh,
so
yeah.
before
Yeah, let's do that. You want to do the I'm assuming the address part of that is what we're,
I believe so. Yeah.
So yeah, let's do it. So let's see, where am I going next? I don't know. I'll go somewhere fun. Let's go to here we go. I got an idea. We're gonna skip ahead to March.
Aren't you gonna go to Disney World? Yeah,
that's where we're going. That's already actually on the calendar. We're gonna go here. This is when we're going to we're going to Florida again during this week for spring break. So what I'll do is I will put in an event because it's not on there yet, and we're gonna be at our aunt and uncle's. We're gonna get there about 1 o'clock. So I'm going to put in arrive at Donovan's, and then we will add a location. And we'll just put Winter Haven. We'll just put this so I don't, dox them on, the internet here. We'll put Winter Haven, Florida in there. We're going to put the time is actually going to be all day. And it's going to be until Thursday. So now I have that Winter Haven address there. You can see that and hit save. And now that's there. And when you click at it, you can now see I can click here and I can get that address. So it's in the calendar link. And then if you're adding by phone, so I'll show that too, because I think it's important to know that you can do it on your phone as well, because we're always adding, you're out to dinner maybe with somebody and you're like, hey, let's meet up next week at this place. If I add a calendar event in my phone, so let's do something next Tuesday, add the title. That's going to be dinner. And then we're going to add a location. So you see there, right here, we have add location. We'll add in Galena Steakhouse. Make sure it's on my personal calendar and hit save. And now we've got dinner at Galena Steakhouse. So when I'm on there, I can click on that, tap that, and it's going to show me where we're going for dinner that night. So I just find that aspect to be really helpful a lot. So there's a calendar event disappear from my organization's calendar after I change ownership of it to another staff member. You would have to be, well, if you shifted, so I'm guessing without being able to see that, my guess would be that when you shift ownership of the event, unless you're listed as a guest on the event, then it would no longer be on your calendar because it's no longer considered your event. Would be my guess with that, without being able to see that in action. That would probably be my thinking on that.
Unless you have a shared calendar that you're both tracking together.
Right. Yep. Yes. So you plan events for meetings that you don't attend. Sure. Yeah. So what I think with that would be like, that would be my guess, is once you kind of created that, like add yourself as the guest, or use a shared calendar where you share that calendar with everybody. And then you don't have to, we have just as an example, well, I guess this be for work. If
you're talking to, I just want to mention, we do shared calendars a lot here at CCHE for room spaces and things like that. So we can add all of us to add as we need be, but we know we can look at that at any point in time and see what's happening in a space.
Yep. It's so nice. We have like our LTC department calendar here. So like, that's the one that our admin assistant adds all of us to. So like, here's their Thanksgiving event created by our admin assistant there. And then it's just everybody's shared on that calendar. So we all have access to see it. I can toggle it on and off, all of that too. One of the things too that I would suggest for that is, one of the things that is helpful is using then that description. If you do have those shared calendars for work, is using that description area to tell everybody what it's being used for. Because if you say booked room and they're like, well, can I steal that room? Can I use it? Do you need a bigger room, smaller room? You can use that description area and people know what you're using it for then. Okay. Google Chrome. If you have more calendar questions, please drop them in the chat. But this is, you know, and then we'll leave some, we should have just a little bit of time left over for some questions here. We're on a good pace. I like it. Google Chrome. All right. This is my, I mean, I could probably do almost a whole hour on it. It would take a lot of thinking to figure out an hour's worth of content for this. I've got my main Google Chrome tips and tricks here for organizing your world. And if you are using Microsoft Edge or Firefox, not to knock those, they're just not as good. I don't care how much internet or the Microsoft tries to push Edge on everybody. Chrome is the GOAT right now. It's the best thing out there as far as web browsing, in my opinion. Unfortunately, I can't make the Internet Explorer joke anymore because they did finally get rid of Internet Explorer. But Chrome is fantastic, and it does so many things and so well. And so there's a few things here that I want to make sure everybody's aware of. The first one is making sure that you have separate Chrome profiles. If we're talking about decluttering our digital life, separating your Chrome profiles, separating your work account from your personal Google account, separating your wife, you're sharing a computer at home and your son or daughter is in school and they have a Google account and they get into this and they're logged in, everything gets meshed together and it can become a disaster. If I had a magic wand to wave over the entire Google universe, it would be to teach everybody how to do this. Like, you have to do this. Like, this is like non-negotiable in my opinion, just because of the chaos that can ensue. So when we're doing this, there's a couple of things that trip people up. One is if they click on their avatar. So even if they open up a new tab here and they say, oh, I'm in my personal account, I need to get to my work account. And they click on this, they go down here to add another account. And you see, I actually have my demo account signed in from doing this before and showing people how it worked. I can add another account here. Here's the problem. How Chrome works is that Chrome essentially signs you into everything when you sign into Chrome itself. In a technical term, they call it at the kernel level. So like a popcorn kernel, it's at the level and then it pops out. So at the kernel level, you're signed into Chrome. So that means that when I'm signed into Chrome with my personal Gmail account, I can just go and open up Google Keep and I'm in my personal Google Keep. Here's what happens. If you say, oh, I need to get into my work Google Keep. So I'm going to click here, add an account, and then go into work Google Keep. It gets you in, but it's still on the back end, you're signed into your personal account, which means that then if you do this and you're bouncing back and forth between emails and you maybe open up a file, when you open up that file that somebody shared with you, it could share to your personal account, not to your work account, which can create chaos. Like it just creates havoc. The other thing is that I try to make sure people know, like, your work Google accounts are all able to be monitored by work. And so if I'm searching for something or I'm, looking stuff up, like, it's going to track all that in the background of your work account if you're signed in here. And that's not great. And not even just like inappropriate things, but like, I don't want my bank accounts to be tied anywhere near my work stuff. Like, that's just not something I want. Like, I want my bank and personal life stuff to be over here, and I want my work life stuff to be over here. Okay. So how do we do this? So you want to make sure you click on this circle. And I wish I could zoom in, but I can't zoom into the extensions area up there. So I apologize for that. But it's this area, this circle here, not the big circle, the one right above it. When you click on that, you'll see this option for other profiles, and you'll see a thing that says add. And when you add, you'll be asked to sign in to your new Chrome profile. This is where you can then sign into your work account, your son, your daughter that comes home from school, they can sign into their school account. Your husband, your wife, they can sign into their Google accounts. And then you can bounce back and forth and not everything is twisted. So we use this at home on my home computer. So that way my wife can get into her Google account and I can get into my Google account. And we're not crossing streams. Like I said, Ghostbusters style here, because there's no Azul that we have to defeat, right? Like it's just like keep everything separate. So you sign in and then you're able to then bounce between those accounts. So that's how I was able to click here and go into my Google Trainer account. And I have a whole series of different bookmarks. I have a whole series of different links, logins, all of that stuff is saved based off of what Google account I'm in, which is super, super important to keep everything apart. Okay. So that's my number one Chrome decluttering thing. I have a couple of other things I want to make sure I get to, but I'll tell you this horror story first. And if we have any educators in here, even just parents, this is something to learn from. So it was a teacher who said, man, I wish I would have known this because my son came home and he opened up our computer and he did his assignment. When he shared it with his teacher, he didn't switch to his, like it was shared in, he was creating it in my Google Drive, not in, because he just went here and added his account and not in his. And then he shared it with his teacher and it came from his dad. And then the teacher came down because they actually taught in the same building. The teacher came down and accused his dad of doing the kid's homework for him, which is crazy. But like, that's nuts. Well, if he's like, if I would have known that, I would have had him sign into a separate profile and then that never would have happened. Like the streams would have never got crossed. So be sure. And again, click on this little icon up here, add. And then also if you're using a public computer and you log into your Google account, this is how you get out of that. Like you click up here and then you can click on this little gear icon and then I can click and delete myself off of it, and then all my data is off of that computer. So that is very, very helpful too. Like I do that a lot when I have to present at places and I have to use their computer. I sign into Chrome and then I delete Chrome, or I delete myself off of Chrome.
And I was going to say that's also a place where people can get confused. Like if you haven't done that and maybe you did something along the way, you'd be like, I know I've saved that password. Where did I save that password? Well, you might have saved it in another profile. Or I just know that I've heard that happen here, that people have
absolutely happens all the time. Just like that's like, I think it's like if you take one thing away from today, like hopefully you take a lot, but like take that away, like separate your Chrome worlds, because that actually leads to our next thing, which is bookmarking and just decluttering your bookmarks. Okay, so your bookmarks live under here. So this is actually what's called your bookmarks bar. They actually have a whole nother area too, but this is my bookmarks bar. I am obsessed with bookmarking. It is the thing that I do the most. To get your bookmarks bar, you want to make sure you hit the three dots and then you can go to bookmarks and then show bookmarks bar. Or on your keyboard, you can go Shift Ctrl B and it'll show your bookmarks bar here. Okay. Okay, so I see a question in there for when you switch profiles, does that switch you to a different email? Yeah, so it would be two separate emails, right? So when I switch profiles to my work one, I'm now going to send all of the mail that comes from here is coming from my work account. If I go to my personal one and I go to mail, all mail is going to be coming from my personal Gmail there. So it's a way that you can just keep those two emails separate.
Ask a clarifying question to that though. If they log in as a separate person, right, as the email, they could be sending it from their husband's email or their wife's email. Yep. And be under their account, but sending it from whatever you logged into below.
Always check this little corner up here to see who's logged in. Like that's my best tip. Like if you're unsure, like if it's your wife, if it's you, it's your kid, click on the little avatar up here. That'll help. See, keep randomly seeing a bookmark bar from last school year. How does that pop up? Maybe a bookmark folder potentially is what you're referring to there, because the bookmark bar here is what comes up underneath your Omnibox. Okay, so that's always going to be there, but maybe that's a folder, like I have my golf folder here. That could be there. You can right click on it and delete it, or it could be installed by your Google admin too, because like Google admins can actually push out bookmark folders to all their users with different links and stuff.
Also, you can choose for it to not be in the bar, just be a folder above.
Right.
So that's an option too.
So here's what I want to show you guys in my last couple of minutes here of this. I want to show you how you can organize your bookmarks bar to be more effective. So it's Christmas time coming up here. We're going to be Amazon searching a lot, right? And so I want to bookmark Amazon. I already have this bookmarked in my other one, so it's not going to work there. So what you do is you bookmark something, you hit the little star in your Omnibox. Hit star, comes up, I hit done. Now I have that bookmarks bar. You want to make sure your folder is your bookmarks bar. See, I almost screwed that up. Bookmark, there it is. So now it's there. Here's my trick though. This comes up and it takes up a lot of space. So if I add another bookmark, it keeps getting longer and longer. Amazon.com special spend less, whatever. That's way too long. So what I want you to do is when you bookmark something or you want to edit your bookmarks you already have, click on the star and then you can change the name. And my best trick is to delete the name completely and then hit done. And now you just have the logo or what's called the favicon there. That's the favorite icon because these used to be called favorites before they were bookmarks. And the favicon just shows up in your bookmarks bar. So as long as you remember that that's YouTube, that that's Google Photos, that that's Amazon, you can click and go to all those different places and you get so much more space on your bookmarks bar. I am slightly obsessed with doing this, as you can tell here from my work. And this is another reason to separate your profiles. I have all of my work stuff bookmarked, and then I have all of my personal stuff bookmarked. And I don't need to have those intertwined. Like I'm not using my work stuff in my personal life, but I am going to use Amazon. And so there it comes, right? I am going to use YouTube and banks and things. So I just delete those names, or you can shorten the name. So maybe you don't want to delete the name completely. You can shorten the name and it'll come up and it'll save you space. So that is really, really, really helpful. Good question on changing up the order of bookmarks. You click and drag. So you click them and just pull them and then they'll switch. So you can see I can just move it around. And if I want, like I have a lot of bookmarks, so maybe if I want one of these to come back up to the forefront, I can just click and drag it up and then pull it out onto the bar. And there it is. So clicking and dragging, you can move. Because yeah, if you have a bunch of things bookmarked, you have this little arrow over here that then creates a side channel. And everything new that you bookmark goes into the bottom of that. So you want to be able to like pull those up and move them around and organize them that way. So yeah, good question.
Well, Ben, we're hitting that 1 o'clock time, and I want to give people time if they need to leave. But for those that maybe have some last questions, please hang out or be happy to chat with you. And Ben will be finishing up.
Yep. All right. Last tip for our 1 o'clock time frame. Here's the thing that I think, again, couple of quick takeaways, important takeaways: bookmarking, Chrome profiles, calendar, all that stuff. If you close a tab and you want that tab back, shortcuts. So everybody should write this down on a Post-it note and put it next to your computer. This is where I'm actually encouraging Post-it notes over Keep Notes. Post-it note, put it next to your computer. On a Windows machine, it's Ctrl Shift T, and on a Mac, it's Command Shift T, and that opens up your most recently closed tab. So if you quickly, you get a little tabalicious at the top here and you close out something, you're like, darn it, I didn't want to close that out. Ctrl Shift T brings it right back. And that is my favorite shortcut of all time, because I close out tabs constantly. And I'm like, I didn't want to close that one out. Ctrl Shift T, it reopens, and it'll keep doing it. Like you can keep opening up tabs until you have no more tabs to open up. So it is really helpful. Like I just opened up that document I created at the beginning of our workshop today. So thank you guys. I'll answer some questions. I'll stick around. I will say in the slides, I have a couple of other things in here with right-clicking on tabs and managing extensions and some more shortcuts. Yeah, I'm happy to answer any other questions that you guys have, in time, or thank you guys for hanging out for an hour with me today.